how were the Sheepdogs to have known when they were playing garages and local bars that they would blow up to be as big as they were? You never really know, but all you can do is just go to local shows, support live music, and eventually sometimes it takes off.
Hello, I'm Eric Anderson. The voice you just heard belongs to Dallin Gunther of the Underground Cafe. Dallin is one of the many voices you'll hear in this special Junofest episode of YXE Underground. This episode is dropping on March 12th, which means we are well into Juno Week here in Saskatoon. Perhaps you've already seen a show or run into a Canadian musician, probably Jim Cuddy because he's everywhere, or maybe you're resting up for a big weekend of live music. This year's Junofest, which is a 2-day festival of live music spread out over 10 venues across Saskatoon, begins on Friday the 13th, which is kind of spooky, and continues Saturday night. If you love live music like I do, it's an amazing way to see artists and bands play in really unique spaces, everywhere from the Broadway Theatre and the Capitol to 9 Mile Brewery and Drift Cafe. So what does it take to pull off a 2-day, 10-venue, more than 60 artist music festival? We're about to find out in this episode of YXE Underground. It's lunchtime on a Thursday afternoon in early February at Saskatoon's Somewhere Else Pub and Grill. There's a group of musicians about to put on a songwriter circle for invited guests. It's part of a musical series called the Blue Jay Sessions, and it's the brainchild of Dan Clapson. Dan is the co-founder of a popular food blog called Eat North and has been hosting these Blue Jay Sessions, which feature country artists sharing songs and stories in intimate venues throughout Alberta for the past few years. He's bringing the Blue Jay Sessions to Saskatoon for Juno Week because he saw an amazing opportunity.
Well, I wanted to bring it to Saskatoon for the Junos because whenever you have a large-scale event such as that, you have so many artists that are from all over Canada coming to the city, and all eyes are on Saskatoon. So there's a good chance you can get quite a range of talented musicians where you wouldn't be able to, no, I shouldn't say you wouldn't be able to, but Saskatoon obviously has an amazing music scene. But on a weekend like this, you know, there can be people coming in from Vancouver, Toronto, or like, you know, small town New Brunswick, and you can really find these talented people you might not have access to otherwise.
Having the Juno Awards in Saskatoon is a music lover's dream. Artists and bands from across the country are converging in our city and will be playing shows in venues big and small as part of Junofest. The last time Junofest took place in Saskatoon was 2007. I was a teacher in small town Saskatchewan, a town called Frontier to be specific, but I drove up to Saskatoon for the weekend and to check out Junofest, just going from show to show with the man sitting across from me right now. This is Troy Weppler.
Hello.
Troy Weppler is my cousin. You might know him as Cousin Troy. You might also know him as the tall, handsome farmer who attends most shows at Amigos. So I thought it would be fun to have Troy provide a bit of color and character to this special episode. And what better place to do it at Amigos, which is where we are now. Hello, Troy.
Hey, how's it going? It's we got about 15 minutes till Children's Day at Amigo fires up, so let's pound this out.
Can you explain what's happening? It's a Sunday afternoon. It's March 1st. What's happening?
I'm not sure. I see there's a DJ table going up on the stage. Face painting. The first table I tried to sit at, I couldn't because it's going to be turned into a face painting booth. So that's something to look forward to in a couple minutes. So, and also Awake in the back. So it's a busy place, Amigos, on a Sunday. So here we are.
And there are literally tables going by us right now. I thought this would be like just a nice cozy place for us to have a beer, enjoy some good food, and all the things are happening.
It still can be.
Yes, there we go. When you think of Junofest 13 years ago, Troy, any memories come to mind?
Yeah, so you're thinking of 07. It was funny, I was reading this morning, like with the kind of blizzard we had last night, that 07 was that last giant blizzard we had in January that year, so I guess we would have still been digging out. I don't think I was living here yet. I think I was still maybe living in Battleford. But I remember being in town and just the buzz around, and everywhere you went, like, maybe so-and-so is going to show up, and right, I remember being in here, and members of the Tragically Hip were in Amigos.
That was very cool.
Yeah, to see, I think that was Jets Overhead. Wasn't that that was the hype, big hype band that year?
That's right.
The guy from some of the 5440 members were in here that night for that show. Yeah, I remember that one. Downtown. If I don't name something different every couple of years, but Coors Event Center now, Odeon back then or whatever, there was a couple pretty big shows down there. Yeah, it was Shout Out and what did I say, DJ Champion and Malajube.
Yeah.
I don't know, is there a French way to say that? That I just couldn't.
We'll hear from listeners later.
Yeah, Malajube was there. And then there's a whole other story of our friend Errol getting hit by a car leaving there that night. And yeah, it's funny now because he lived, right? I mean, he was seriously injured, but it's still a funny story. Kind of karma. Yeah.
There were so many things that happened in 07.
Busy time, yeah. It was fun. So yeah, I'm ready for this one. 13 years.
So I had no idea at the time in terms of the work that went into doing Junofest in 2007, and then for this year, I wanted to learn about the work that it took, that's going to take to pull off this festival, because it's in 10 venues, like 60 artists over 2 days. So Janelle and I, our podcast photographer, we visited 3 different venues in the city. So we went to Broadway Theater, went to 9 Mile Legacy Brewing, and we went to the Underground Cafe, and we learned about what it takes to pull off a festival like this, and then what it means to the venue owners to have a Junofest show at their place. So I guess we should get going because we've probably got about 14 minutes to pull this off. Okay, so the first place we went to was the Broadway Theater, and that's where we met Erin Otterbein. And Erin and her dog Dolly. Oh, you should see pictures of Dolly, Troy. She's adorable.
What flavor dog?
It is a white, fluffy
Malamute?
Something like that.
Okay.
Really nice puppy.
Cloud? Like a fluffy floating cloud, yeah.
Kind of, yeah. And then Erin was kind enough to meet us at the Broadway Theater at 11 in the morning. She opened up the theater. So it was just Erin, Janelle, Dolly, and I in the theater. And it was really, really great. And what I didn't know was that the Broadway Theater, they're actually curating Junofest, which brings about many opportunities, but also many challenges. So Erin's been with the Broadway Theater for 11 years. We sat in the 3rd row of a very empty theater. And I started by asking Erin what went through her mind when she heard the Junos were coming to Saskatoon.
Initially, it's always a very exciting thing to hear that there's going to be tours coming through and artists coming through, and that they're going to, be on our stage. It's always such an honor to have artists who see playing the Broadway Theater as an honor, and I felt like that was kind of going to be the biggest benefit for us, was to have, those 4 or 5 days of Junofest shows. But then Junos approached the Broadway team about helping them program Junofest and start putting acts in other rooms, because our name has kind of become synonymous with bringing musicians and artists to town and treating them well and making sure that their experience here is honored as well, and so not just in our space but in our community in general.
Okay, so when the Juno folks ask you to do this, you're very nice. So of course you say yes.
Yeah.
So then what does the work look like?
It actually hasn't taken too much of a toll on our team, because our executive director sees this as a very exciting project, and so he's really kind of taken the lead on a lot of that programming and dealing with the Junos in general and Karis in general. And so for us, it's really just been business as usual at the Broadway, and we've got this, upcoming set of shows, and we still don't know what they are yet. And but for our team, after running a festival like Winterruption, running shows in other venues is a lot of fun. It's a way to kind of get out of, our space here, and we really love working with our partners around town, and so it's just like another fun weekend of, we get to see people be happy and brought together around music, and so that's kind of the motivation for our team, is this is a really cool way to get some experience from a huge national company like Karis and the Junos, so yeah.
You mentioned Winterruption. So Winterruption, I thought was just a smashing success this year. Happens at the end of January, and then the next day, the day after, the Juno nominees are announced. It's such a quick turnaround for you. What are the challenges that come with that, Erin?
I think other than the Broadway, kind of our mentality has always been like onwards and upwards, and that idea of, no, we haven't done it before, but that's not going to stop us. We're going to try. We're gonna do it, and we're going to put our best foot forward and all our effort and energy into it. But that's just kind of how our team operates all the time. So it didn't really seem to phase us. There was a point in the weekend of Winterruption when there was a whirlwind where we remembered that Junos were not being nominated on Monday, and just kind of that shrug off our backs, like, this will be a lot of fun. And that's how we have to go forward, because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of people and places to coordinate, but I feel like we're a really great communicative team and we work really well together, and so that's why we know we'll be successful at this. So
You mentioned the venues. There are 10 venues, I believe,
Yeah.
across the city.
Yeah.
So how do you keep track of everything? Because there's so much happening at this theater alone, especially during Juno Week. Like I got my tickets yesterday for the Q taping here, which I think is going to be
that's
awesome.
gonna be really exciting.
So there's stuff happening here, but then in 9 other places. So
Yes.
how do you do that, Erin?
We have a very active group chat, and it's just kind of, I think we've done it enough times with Winterruption, and we put shows in other venues throughout the year as well. And, we've had sold out shows happening at the Broadway and sold out shows happening at another venue. And we check in with each other. We make sure that everybody's feeling like supported and they've got all the resources that they need. And we really rely on our partners and friends at the other venues, because nobody knows how to run their room better than the people who work there. And so we really just try to be, easy to work with and easy going about everything. So if we let ourselves get too stressed out about things, then it's not fun anymore. So just trying to make sure that everybody's happy and feeling respected, and that, it was a good thing that they came to Saskatoon and they put this show on for our city. So
There are so many artists that are coming here, and what I remember from when the Junos were here in 2007 was seeing people that maybe normally wouldn't come to Saskatoon, and they come here and they're playing a really small venue, and then maybe 6 months later or a year they come back because they had such a great time. Is it an opportunity to, I don't know if network is the proper term, but just to make some contacts with artists that maybe you've never met before?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's a big reason that it's so exciting for our team to be working in these venues with different, it's not just working with artists, it's working with tour managers, it's working with agents, it's, everybody kind of in that Canadian music industry scene. And the reason, that we keep programming shows for artists in other venues and here at the Broadway as well is because people like working with us. And we try and make sure that everybody's treated well, and some of the stories we hear about artist experiences on tour and on the road are kind of horrifying, and would never cross our minds for us to treat another human being like that, much less somebody we've invited into our space and into our city. And so there's people like to work with us, artists like to work with us, tour managers tell the agents and that, these are good people, they treat our artists well, the audience is always really respectful. And so our reputation is kind of a big part of that. And
it just blows me away why, maybe this is a bit of an aside, but why venues wouldn't treat artists and
I don't know. It's a weird statement, but I was kind of raised in the Broadway umbrella. This was, I started working here at a young age, and so I've never really understood that kind of mentality of how you could be a promoter and treat your act like crap. But just having worked with so many people and so many people in this room and local sound techs and lighting techs, they've seen some really crummy behavior on tour, all over the place. And so it's an affront to me as a person who wants everybody to have fun and feel like their art is a joyful thing to be pursuing and not a chore and not a ton of work, and that I don't want anybody to walk off a stage in Saskatoon and think oh, that was shit. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So when the Juno Week begins and Junofest is happening, what will those days look like for you?
It's hard to say because I haven't had to work with Junos like particularly, but a show day can run anywhere from 12 to 17 hours depending on the day and the load-in time and the sound check time and how long the show actually runs and how long your act wants to stay after the show and there's all these, and like how long it can take to settle and all, so they can really run you down. And so that, I think, is the thing that everybody was a little bit worried about in terms of like burning us out, but a 17-hour day is something pretty regular around here. And so it doesn't really phase us, but people who don't do this and don't, seek the adrenaline that can come from running a show or running a festival, because it is a little, like, it's an adrenaline hit, absolutely. Don't really understand that. Can't like put themselves in those shoes and be like, well, that sounds like a great idea. But for us, it's kind of like going to summer camp. It's kind of like you get a week to like meet all these really fun, rad new people, and they're coming to like your place and you get to be proud of it. And so that's, it's kind of how we're looking at it, as like, business as usual doesn't stop at the Broadway, because we are a venue. We'll still be, we'll sell popcorn and we're going to have lots of people here enjoying shows, but that summer camp of having our team be working, pretty intensely and closely together, yet still really far apart throughout the city and different venues. It's one, a bonding experience, and two, it's just a lot of fun, and the adrenaline rush is pretty great. So
I just love your enthusiasm. This is great, and the idea of summer camp too. I think is awesome, and. Besides that, like, there's so many other great shows. This spring is crazy for Broadway. Yeah,
I mean, we're not slowing down anytime soon. I remember there was a time where, like, the Broadway was kind of framed as, like, the little theater that could, and now we're kind of just this, like, engine just barreling down the tracks at full speed, and we're going to keep it going, and that's kind of, we want to be a true reflection of the community, and I think we are working really hard at making sure that is, that mandate is filled here, and having the Junos be a part of that. Like, it was a big deal to have them come here. It kind of legitimized the city in a way the first time they were here, and now kind of the glow has come off because there's a reason for artists to stop in Saskatoon. They're coming here anyways. They're like, we're not, we were this, tertiary market for a long time, and we're starting to be seen as a much more viable market, and that the people in Saskatchewan deserve to have artists and music and musicians come here and celebrate their art with our citizens. And so that's another reason that we're, really excited for the Junos to be here, and they've been like pretty lovely to work with on our end. And so it's an exciting opportunity for us as the Broadway to just kind of, we know what we do well, and we know we like what we do. It'll be really cool to kind of put on those, like, that Juno hat and learn and see, and just kind of, get a little bit more experience on that side of the music industry. So
it's wonderful speaking with you, Erin. It really is. It's such a blast speaking with you. Thank you for coming in on a cold Saturday morning, and you opened up the theater to Janelle and I, and it looks great. And it's weird to be in here when there is just I was going to say 3 of us, but 4 of us, because who else is here?
Dolly's around here somewhere cleaning up all the popcorn that's
Erin's puppy
behind. She works here all the time, so she's the official, like, tour greeter. Anytime a bus rolls up at the back, she's waiting at the door for the artists, and she's like a general light in this space, so people like coming to visit her more than us.
Oh boy! Oh, what a welcome to have, though. Erin, thank you so much. Best of luck during Junofest, and thanks for taking the time.
We're happy to do it. Yeah, we're excited.
A big thank you to Erin for opening up the Broadway Theatre very early on a Saturday morning and letting us sort of just take up the space. Troy, you have seen many shows at the Broadway Theatre. Any stand out as a favorite over the years?
Well, I think the one that stands out for sure would be the night that Good Brother broke his leg out front, slipped on the ice, and fell in front of Amigos.
It was Dallas Good from the Sadies.
Dallas from the Sadies, and then the troopers that they are, the show must go on, right? So, like, Dallas in the hospital, the rest of the band came and did. I mean, they put together like a great 90-minute show, and then I think we all got to go back and see them again for free, wasn't it? Or or maybe it wasn't free, but they came back and redid it anyway when everyone was healthy, and And so that was something, because I was in Amigos drinking before I went over there, right? And all of a sudden there's an ambulance outside, and I was like, oh, someone must have slipped on the ice. Sucks for them. Then we head over to the show. I was like, oh, it's Dallas. I walked right by him. He's laying on the ground. Yeah, so that was memorable. And then I'm trying to think, like, there's been so many. Like, what shows have we seen? Like, we've seen the Sadies here a couple times.
I like the Core Blund show where it was just him, and like he had so many drinks up on stage, and he just told stories.
Yeah, that was really good. That's the first time I'd seen him.
Oh wow!
Right? Yeah. And I should have known, but I remember how excited our friend Craig was to get a ticket. I was like, oh, he really likes this guy. He must be pretty good. And then after the show, I was like, okay, I get it. Yeah, it was really good. Actually, I seen the Deers there a couple years ago where it was, wasn't it the lead singer of the Deers, and he had like Saskatoon Symphony people backing him up?
Murray Lightburn, yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah. That was super cool to hear some of those songs. Geez, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head all the other ones there. I mean, obviously the time that I was part of a performance, right? When I had to tell a story for DNTO.
CBC Radio is definitely not the opera. Troy was one of the featured guests.
Yeah, it was Sook In and it was sold out. I remember standing on stage and looking out. It's like I just focused on the exit sign on the back. I was like, pretend that's the only thing in here. And I think if you in any pictures, I was just had my hands on the mic stand so hard. I was like, just don't. If you pass out in front, just like fall off the stage in front of that many people. So yeah, that was pretty memorable too. So yeah, I've had some pretty good times in the Broadway for sure.
You have so many great memories. And when I think of concerts in the city, I do think of the Broadway Theater. But then the great thing about Junofest is that there's these smaller venues that maybe you don't traditionally think of as music venues, but they're going to be hosting shows. And then one of them is 9 Mile Legacy Brewing on 20th Street, and that's the second stop on our tour. So I want to speak with CEO and co-founder Sean Moen because, like I said, when I think of 9 Mile, I think of great beer. But I was curious how Sean was able to attract the Juno folks to bring shows to the brewery during Junofest. Like, how do you do that? So Sean and I sat down with a couple of pints, and he told the story of how a craft brewery gets the attention of the Juno Awards.
Well, we're big music fans here. We've had the privilege of hosting some really incredible acts in the taproom already. And when it was coming to Saskatoon, we knew that come hell or high water, we had to be a part of it somehow. And so we're really lucky. We've been selected as a Junofest venue, of course, but we've also talked the fine Toronto people of Caris and the Junos into doing some really cool collaborations with us. So you're going to see some really interesting stuff pop up that involves 9 Mile.
I'm very curious how do you talk to them about, because they've got so much on their plate, and then how does 9 Mile get in and be like, hey, we make great beer?
We I find traditional, anybody who's worked with us will tell you that I find traditional asks of participation to be boring. Usually it's an ask of giving a bunch of free beer, which is, we've never really been able to do because we've been tiny, so we've always had to think creatively about what they need. For this, we've designed a special growler that's going to be present at the Juno banquet, and it's going to tell the story of how music and beer are the two great Canadian conduits of connection. And so thinking a little bit about what it looks like to share a growler of beer, what it looks like to share a great tune. And for that particular beer, we're offering our 999th batch of beer, which is an Imperial Pilsner. So a lot of fun.
That is so cool. We were talking on the phone a few days ago about how music and beer connect people in our country, and like you had some great things to say. Can you just wax poetic a little bit about what, like, because I totally agree with you in terms of, like, the music and then the beer as well, but how do you feel that it connects people?
I think one of the great moments of my mid-30s was watching Gord Downey's final concert on CBC, and I texted with friends across the country, and everybody was emotionally overwhelmed with what that meant, because we'd all grown up listening to the Tragically Hip and hearing Gord and his bandmates tell the story of our country. I feel that to a degree as well, a great degree with Stompin' Tom, and was lucky enough to see him with Garrett and Lacey when he was last through town before he passed away. And I think that there's a thing about music that strikes at our commonality and helps us define what it means to be Canadian. We generally define being Canadian as being not American. And we struggle, I think, with the exception of pointing to hockey, struggle with finding what it means to be Canadian. But artists like Stan Rogers and Stompin' Tom Connors and Buffy St. Marie and Gord Downey, and the list goes on and on and on, they identify those common points in ways that I think we have a hard time articulating ourselves, and so we're drawn to them. How does that relate to beer? Well, we're having a beer right now.
Yes, we are.
And we're riffing on what it means to be Canadian. I think that the beauty of what we do is it opens people up to connect with one another, and I think there's a lot of commonality between those two mediums.
You bring up a really great point about how music and beer can bring people together from all parts of the country, because you're so right about we don't identify as like we're not American, but there's so much regionalism too in this country. And yet when I think of someone like Gord Downey, Gord and the Hip were popular in Halifax to Saskatoon to Vancouver. Like, it's able to span the whole country, which is really hard, isn't it? Because we're such a big bloody country.
So some of these folks, I mean, Joni Mitchell's an obvious person to point to as well, in being able to tell stories of places that maybe they've been but they're not from. You listen to Wheat Kings, and it's certainly with pride and with reflection and with hopefully with self-awareness that you think about Saskatoon and our history. You listen to Field Behind the Plow by Stan Rogers, and you think about what it means to be Saskatchewanian. You listen to Roll On Saskatchewan by Stompin' Tom Connors. These aren't guys that lived in Saskatchewan, but yet they got the common value proposition or shortcomings that define us as Canadians, and I think that's pure magic at the end of the day, and that exists not only for Saskatchewanians but for every other part of this country, I'm sure.
One of the things I really admire about you, Sean, and what you've done with 9 Mile is that you are big champions of this city, and so what I'm really excited about is for Junofest and for the Junos in general is that so many people from across the country are going to see what Saskatoon's like in 2020, and like how does that make you feel to know that, like, okay, you've got a lot of the country coming here, and you're going to help put on a really great time here? Every response is a massive digression on my part, Eric. Sorry about that. I have moved around a bit, and I've lived in different spots, and I've always found myself back in Saskatoon, and to a degree, there's been reluctance around that, but on reflection, this is my home. This is all of our home. It's also one of the greatest places to live in the entire world. I defy people to argue that point in July. Maybe they can argue it in January, but there's beauty in winter too. And I think that it's been interesting with our business to be part of the national and international awakening that Saskatoon has something going on. I don't think we've always been that great at it as Saskatchewanians in understanding that we've got something really great going on. But we're kind of at a swagger moment right now, and it's going to be extremely extremely proud to show people that there's an absolute jewel that's not without its issues and its conversations, and but it's a place that you want to be around, and it's people that you want to be around. When I was talking with Todd and Sarah at Tourism Saskatoon, they mentioned how when they were selling Saskatoon to host the Junos, one of the big things they talked about was the culinary scene, the drink scene here in Saskatoon. I'm so glad that you brought up the fact that, like, it's okay to puff out our chest a little bit and promote ourselves, because you're so right. Like, for the most part, we're not really great at that, are we?
No, I know you've lived in different spots of the world as well, and we often get patted on the head and kind of, especially by people out east that look at us as the cute country people, and we've got a lot to say, and we've got a lot to contribute, and we know what excellence is, so for me it's been no surprise that Saskatchewan people have been really keen on trying excellent beer and excellent Asian fusion and a world-class art gallery, and the list goes on and on and on, because we know excellence, and I think we need to start thinking of ourselves like that.
We're we're about a month away from the Junos. Do you know what all you're going to be hosting and doing here the week of, or?
Not really. I know we've signed up for a few things. We've got a really special beer, as I mentioned, going to the banquet. We're going to be a Junofest venue for a couple of nights. I'm not sure which acts we're going to host. We had the privilege early on in this location at hosting Tom Wilson. I've been a long time Tom Wilson fan, and so to be able to have him play the tap room was a really special experience. I know he's going to be in town because he's been rightly nominated for some recognition, but I don't know if he'll play our place. The last time he played, we didn't know what the heck we were doing, and we didn't have mic clips as an example, so we had tied the mics to the mic stands. So Tom might have a bad taste in his mouth from that, I don't know, or maybe it's a quaint memory. Be awesome if you stop by. I don't know what we're going to host in terms of a venue, but it's going to be something really special, and if people don't have their passes yet, you got to get them.
What does the tap room become when there's live music here?
My best example, like, it's a pretty tiny spot. We can probably eavesdrop on everybody's conversation in the tap room right now. It's all pretty intimate. But my best example is a Texas Roadhouse. You get the acts up in the window, their butts are in the window. Everybody's standing shoulder to shoulder and focused on the stage in a really narrow way, and it just becomes a really electric environment. So we've had everything from fiddlers to traditional acoustic acts to the legend himself, Tom Wilson, to a 5-piece band play the front of the room. Everybody does it in a bit of a different way. The Classy Chassis played our anniversary last year. This place doesn't seem suitable for bands that size. It's an amazing vibe when the tunes start pumping out.
Last question for you. I know that music is very near and dear to your heart, and you've got some family roots when it comes to your music here. What does it mean to be a part of this Junos, especially when you music means something to you?
Well, I've hired my dad as the sound guy, so I don't know if that's a direct way of answering you, but he's super excited about being able to be a part of it. Our stand-up Brown is named after my grandpa's stand-up bass. As you mentioned, we've got long roots in our family and getting together and having guitar pulls and playing together. So to be able to bring... I've always thought of music as a little bit like cask beer, where when you have a cask, it's an experience that is ephemeral, it's fleeting. You're not going to necessarily experience that same sort of beer in the future, and it's the same like a live performance, right? It's very different from listening to something that's overproduced and over-recorded. And when done right, those experiences are really special. So to be able to have something like that is fun.
Best of luck with the shows, whatever the shows may be. And it's always a pleasure chatting with you. So thanks, Sean.
Back at you, Eric. Thank you.
My thanks to Sean Moen for appearing on the podcast and for sharing some great stories. And I think the shows at 9 Mile are going to be awesome. And I really hope Tom Wilson shows up at one of the shows. Sean brought up the point, Troy, that music and beer are things that bring Canadians together. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. For sure. First of all, just the aspect of mulling around the bar and talking to people, right? Like, I guess, and probably like beer has been for so long, and like now you get a little bit more since it's legal and we can talk about it, like the cannabis or edibles, and also, maybe hand-in-hand enhancing shows or certain shows that you might want to see. Like I just went to see Tool twice. Yeah, I may have been altered at a few of those, but I think beer for sure, and beer's good, right? You can have a few of those and be chill. I mean, you don't want to take it in excess and pound, too many double whiskeys, and you don't remember, and you flew all the way to Washington, you only remember the first half of a show. I mean,
that could happen to anybody.
It could happen to anyone. So, but definitely, a few beers and a good show. It's, I think it's a perfect mix for sure.
I do too. You are listening to the YXC Underground podcast. My name is Eric Anderson. I'm at Amigos right now with my cousin Troy Weppler. We're talking about the Juno Awards. We're talking about Junofest and the work that it takes to pull off a 2-day festival featuring more than 60 artists across 10 venues in Saskatoon. It takes a lot of work. You can subscribe for free to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. You can stream episodes on yxcunderground.com or on Spotify. And be sure to check out the amazing photos Janelle Wallace has taken of the venues that we visited in this episode on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The pictures of Erin and her dog, Dolly, at the Broadway Theater, they're just the best. They're so good, so you have to check those out. Okay, We've got one more stop to go on our tour, which is good because they're really starting to set up for the kids' party here at Amigos.
Look at all the balloons.
Oh, and there's balloons on the floor. Okay, so we better get going. The last stop on our tour is the Underground Cafe. And if you've never been to the Underground Cafe before, you're missing out on great coffee, great sandwiches, and a really cozy environment. But when I saw the list of venues that were hosting Junofest shows, the Underground Cafe surprised me because I never really thought of it as a place to see a concert. And it also surprised Dallin Gunther that it made the list, and he's the owner of the Underground Cafe, so it surprised him too. So after Janella and I finished our beers at 9 Mile, we walked up 20th Street to speak with Dallin and discovered that he was just as surprised that his cafe was named a Junofest venue.
Yeah, I guess that makes two of us in that I didn't think this place was a Juno venue either. It was really just up to them. They were the first ones to reach out and get in touch with me about this, and it was quite surprising, but I was intrigued. I knew that they were doing satellite shows for quite a while. I just didn't think that they would take the step to go to unique, small, intimate spaces like this one. Like, we've been doing shows for years here, but it's always been like at a grassroots level, local bands, touring acts from Canada. Nothing glamorous though, such as the Junos.
For listeners who have never been to your space before, can you do your best to describe the space?
Yeah, for sure. It's about 2,000 square feet, and we've got a little kitchen here that cranks out grilled sandwiches, soups, some fresh baking, really good coffee and tea. And then we've got a fairly comfortable space with an emphasis on vintage rock and roll decor and sort of a music theme overall. Lots of our specialty drinks are named after musicians. And then in the far side, we've got a little stage in the corner that we put on shows with in the evenings sometimes.
What I really love is, like, you walk in and it's a long and narrow room, and I don't think there are many rooms like this in Saskatoon.
It just kind of worked out that way. When we started throwing shows, I knew absolutely nothing about sound, and it was sort of like a get thrown into the fire situation with putting on shows. There was no one else to run sound except for me, so I just kind of had to twist knobs until I figured it out. And as it turns out, long, narrow spaces are perfect acoustics for having shows, so it kind of was just a happy accident. I'm like, this is actually sounding really great. I don't really know why, and now I know why, but then I didn't. I was just twisting knobs until it sounded good.
What made you want to start hosting shows here?
Well, it was always kind of part of the plan. I mean, we were doing shows way back since day one when the record store was still in here, and that was like such a great experience, just getting a whole bunch of people in here jazzed on music. The all ages showcases were cool. We hosted those for years, getting kids in high school stoked on music, getting them up on a stage, getting them in front of people, getting them a little bit of paychecks from the door. Everything about having shows is really fun.
That's really interesting you say that, like, with the all ages, because where I grew up in Swift Current, there weren't a lot of acts when I grew up, and that's changed now because there's different venues in Swift Current, but I had no exposure to that as a 16 or 15-year-old, and I would have loved to have had that. So for you to provide that space, like when you were first starting, that must have, like, why was that important for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an essential part of any, like, I guess, cultural scene if you want to go further than music, but definitely on a musical level to have those house shows, garage shows, small cafe shows is super important, especially for young people to get motivated. I think, like, distinctly remember the first time I ever played guitar in front of someone I was a late bloomer, maybe 18. But I just remember, like, hearing an audience react and be happy at something that I played was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do with my life now.
Where was the show?
That was in New Zealand, actually, when I was living there. I was too scared to get up in front of people for a long time, but I just got up the courage to play at an open mic and jammed with the house band. We played some Jimi Hendrix, and I played guitar, and everyone cheered so loud, and I was just like, this is amazing. So, I need to be a musician now.
So, like, not like, of all the musicians to play or artists to play, like, you played a Jimi Hendrix song?
Well, yeah, I never said I played it well, though.
Oh, okay.
But I limped along the solo, and it was okay. But yeah, getting back to what you said before about the kids is, like, I want that magic to happen for the next generation of musicians so that we can continue to foster local talent. It's not like once your notable Saskatoon bands get big and move away, you have to replace them. You have to keep generating music. So if there's not that that grassroots level of small indie shows, then it's harder to foster. It's really quite something to see young kids get hooked on music, and I like to be a part of that. And as a matter of fact, we're actually working with a local radio station to get another all ages showcase up and running in the future. That's on the down low, though. Nothing's confirmed yet, but all I can say is we're working on it, and there should be regular shows coming up again soon.
Why is that so important for you?
I guess just it's an easy way for me to incorporate my business, and at the end of the day, like, I am selling products. We sell beer, coffee during shows, so of course there's the business aspect of it, but for me to combine my business and very easily contribute to one of the aspects of the music scene that's needed, i.e. a small, intimate cafe space that's all ages, handicap accessible, inclusive. We can provide all those things very easily, so it seems like it wasn't really a choice in the matter. Like, it's something we have to do. Yeah.
That's a really, I look at the 10 places that are hosting shows for Junofest, and it's such an eclectic mix of different venues. Like, we were just at 9 Mile talking with Sean about their space there, and we were at the Broadway Theater earlier, and like now we're here and just hearing kind of the backstory. Like, it must be kind of cool to be part of a really eclectic mix that's going to be showcasing so much great music for like 3 or 4 days in the city.
Yeah, it's great to be included in this, and I took a look at the list of other venues that are included, and I just think there's all sorts of venues. They're all so very different from each other, I guess I'm just really grateful that the Junos took the time to look into places like this. Like, we're almost invisible when you Google like places to play in Saskatoon. It's like the big venues come up, Capital, Amigos. They're great venues, of course. I didn't really expect to be included in that list. I'm very grateful that I am, but for the Junos to consider small venues like this really shows that they are aware of the fact that most of the acts, all of the acts that are now winning awards and nominations started playing venues like this. So to come back and be like, we appreciate that this is where music begins sometimes. Well, I mean, it begins in bedrooms, I suppose, but after that, small venues come into play. So the acknowledgement that we can bring that sort of fame and fortune back to where music can start is quite something.
I think that's such a great point, because I can remember the Junos in 2007 and seeing some acts in smaller venues that maybe 6 months or a year later would come back and play a bigger venue. That must be kind of exciting to know that, okay, there could be someone playing up on your stage just over there, and in 6 months, they could be maybe a household name in Saskatoon.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know. I mean, how were the Sheepdogs to have known when they were playing garages and local bars that they would blow up to be as big as they were? You never really know. But all you can do is just go to local shows, support live music, and eventually sometimes it takes off.
So, as a business owner, is there anything special or unique that you have to do to get ready for a Junofest, even though you've never done this before?
Yeah, we are really flying by the seat of our pants here. I think the plan is to just stick with what we know. We're going to set it up the same way we always do, and just try to make it sound as best we can, and try to accommodate as many people as we can comfortably, and hope for the best. When we find out who's playing here, that will be great. We can start setting up the room according. I think it's going to be like more of the folk-ish, acoustic-y kind of scene, which is great. That's the kind of music that sounds best in here. It's a very bright room, very lively. So when you can put some warm acoustic tones into it, it really comes alive. So we are going to just keep on keeping on with what we usually do. And I guess that's why they chose us in the first place. So we must be doing something right.
Question mark. I think you are. Is it a sense of excitement for what's about to happen, or is it more like, do you get anxious or nervous as an owner? And because I imagine like you want to make a great impression on the Juno folks, but how do you feel?
I suppose in one regard, yeah, a good impression would be nice. Maybe they'll come back next time they're in town. But on the other hand, I mean, it's called Underground Cafe for a reason. We're not actually underground. It's just kind of been off the radar for many years. We don't try to spam people with advertisements all the time. We have always relied on just word of mouth and return customers to build this. So a spotlight will be nice for a while, but after the Junos have packed up and gone, it'll just be kind of business as usual. Maybe a few people will know about us. But yeah, no major changes, I don't think. Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure speaking with you, and I do have one selfish question to ask of you. This is going to sound really corny.
I'm married. Just joking.
That was a great answer. So a dream of mine has been to do a live episode of this podcast, and the first place I thought was this space. So have you ever hosted a live podcast in this space?
I have never hosted a live podcast. I would love to, though. It would be great.
That was the answer I was hoping for. But you're married. I understand. Thank you for your time.
Hey, no problem. It was a pleasure talking to you.
A big thanks to Dallin, Sean, Aaron, and Dan for taking the time to appear on the podcast, and I hope you're able to see a show or two of theirs at their venues during Junofest. This has been episode 8 of YXE Underground. My name is Eric Anderson. I host, produce, and edit the podcast. And if you like what you've heard, feel free to give the podcast a 5-star rating and subscribe for free on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. And you can also stream episodes on yxeunderground.com or on Spotify. Follow YXE Underground on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, which is where you will see some really great photos of Aaron, Sean, and Dallin in their respective venues taken by Janelle Wallace. Thank you, Janelle, for all of your hard work and for just taking the time on a really cold Saturday to take some amazing photos. Thank you to my cousin Andrew Dixon for creating the music and the podcast, and to Danger Dynamite for maintaining the website. I would like to acknowledge that all of these interviews in this episode took place on Treaty 6 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis. And before I go, I have to thank the one and only Troy Weppler for sharing his thoughts, his insights, his character, for getting a table here at Amigos before the kids' party starts.
Yeah, it's getting a little tight in here, I guess. We better, yeah. I seen a couple 3-year-olds stumbling around in front of the stage just now, and I was like, that's exactly me at the Stars show. Like, Stars, too, yeah. I guess that was another show we saw before they kind of, well, I guess they were kind of blown up by then, but yeah, absolutely.
That Stars show here at Amigos, I can remember Torquil, the lead singer, hanging off of one of the rafters, and then I bought a shirt that says "Goodbye Fascist" on it.
Yeah, that was awesome. And they'd been like in New York the night before or something. Remember, he was like, yeah, New York's cool, but you guys really get it. And I was like, oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Troy, before we go, would you like to read off the list of Junofest venues for listeners?
Okay, starting at number 1, 9 Mile Legacy. Amigos, hey, they made it. Black Cat Tavern, Broadway Theater, Buds on Broadway, Convocation Hall, Cosmos Senior Center. What's going on there? You know?
Sometimes they have punk shows there. That's the one right by the Hose and Hydrant, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, Senior Center threw me off. Drift Sidewalk Cafe, Louis Pub, Prairie Sun Brewery, The Basement, The Capitol, The Refinery, and The Underground Cafe.
And Troy, where can people get tickets?
Let's see. Tickets are $30. Gets you into every venue on the 13th and 14th, available at ticketweb.ca. Ticketweb.ca.
Aw, we should co-host more podcasts. Thank you, Troy. YXE Underground is a production of the Salthammer Production Company. My name is Troy Weppler. This is...
Me? Like,
Did I say Eric Anderson or Eric Weppler?
I don't know.
I'm Eric Anderson, and this is...
I'm YXE Underground?
No, you say Troy Weppler.
I'm Troy Weppler.
And we'll talk to you soon, Saskatoon, and enjoy Junofest. Oh, we nailed it. And we did it in 17 minutes.
Well, perfect. Just keep people's attention long enough. 17 minutes, I'm out. The shrill screams of children are picking up in the background.
Troy, care to give us a scene setter here?
Okay, so there was balloons. Most of them have been stomped or torn apart. Very loud. The dance floor is about 50% full. I'd guess age from about 2 to about 5, with some moms gently swaying. I foresee some mom-dad arguments on who's going to be the designated driver. I think it's a race to get drunk, and then the sober one gets nominated. So yeah, it's shaping up nice. Oh, and I think I just saw some bubbles. Were those bubbles? Okay. Yeah. It's on now. Yeah, very good.